That's what I call pro talk. When you really don't know the answer, you just make it up.
My rut is that I am in a rut.
To get the pilot of Red Arrow going. This is really a way to skip class.
I want to say, hey, those boys right there are entertainers.
There you go. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said on this podcast.
Alex Rutledge here with American Roots Outdoors TV.
Hey, this is Lee and Tiffany Lukoski from the Crush TV.
Hi, I'm Don Higgins.
This is Jeff Lindsay.
Hey, everybody, this is Mark Drury with Drury Outdoors.
Hey, this is Craig Fitz of Trained Assassins TV. You're listening to Dave and JP on Pro Talk Outdoors, the craziest two I know.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro Talk Outdoors. By the time you hear this, it might be close to the new year, it might be New Year's Day, who knows, but this will probably be the last episode that you guys get a chance to listen to in 2018, so we want to thank you again for another year of awesome clicks and growth, and we're hoping for even bigger in 2019, and joining the Sportsman Nation is going to be a great thing for us.
Yeah, looking forward to that. They've got a great group of it's a great podcast network there. There's a lot of different shows you can listen to, click on, and I feel fortunate to be a part of that.
Absolutely, and I heard from Dan Johnson today, actually, that the biggest number one goal for 2019 is for everybody to improve their quality. If everybody takes a step forward in quality, then the entire network can't help but grow exponentially. And I felt like that was a really valid point, and obviously adding the groups that he's added and setting up some of the different feeds and things, it's going to be a really, really awesome transition. And some of the next following episodes from now, we're going to have details on how you guys can keep up with us and transition to a new feed for us, because we will be changing that over just a little bit, but we'll be coming with the same content and the same voices, and looking forward to bringing you more Pro Talk Outdoors. So, but enough of that stuff, and kind of get into the topic of the night. It's late December here. We're completely lost in Kentucky because
the weather sucks.
The weather's terrible. It's 50 one day and kind of wet, and then it's 45 and raining the next, and then you might get one day that's in the high 30s. But
tomorrow it's supposed to be 60.
Yeah, it's
high winds.
It's a roller coaster, and right now 45 is a cold day.
And when you're planning and preparing for a season, and you look ahead and you think, if I have my tag for late season, I'm going to feel pretty good about it because we've got food. We've got food plots there. We've got, we got some real world beans to hunt over. And we got Deadly Dozen out there. But man, you need some cold weather to get the deer on the beans. You need something to trigger those deer. I mean, let's face it, they go through an entire onslaught of hunting pressure.
Yeah,
from
they're
your
not going to move in daylight if they don't have to.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's subdued movement, and they're not getting up until it's dark.
Yep. And
you need some really cold weather to get them on their feet early, to give them an incentive to go out there and eat in daylight hours, and we just have not seen it, not yet.
Yeah, and in this time of year, traditionally, at least in our experience, mornings aren't nearly as good. But, you'll drive around, and once every blue moon, you'll see a deer in the morning, and you think, gee whiz, maybe I should have been out there. Maybe I should have been out there today. But you'll look at conditions and think, that might be the only deer within 5 miles that's out moving right now. You never know. So it's just a crapshoot this time of year, and anybody that gets it done has earned it. Wyatt Rivers, for example, a guy who absolutely just was driving nails this year trying to make it happen. And for a guy that's used to having a lot go his way because he's a really good hunter, had a hard time this year getting it done, and really proud of him for tagging a nice buck.
Yeah, in late season like that. And I'll tell you, and it's tough conditions. So you look at all the things that are against you right now when you're out there. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit intimidating to try to figure out, what do you do? I mean, I know we're both sitting here with a Kentucky tag in our pocket and not knowing what the heck to do.
And, it compounds the issue when you're like us and you're regular guys, and, you don't have flexibility to go anytime you want, especially, it's an hour drive to get over there. And, I have a very limited amount of time now on vacation days because you use some during the rut. When do I go? When do I take a few hours to go get out there? Well, right now you can't look at any forecast or barometric pressure, temperature, anything to find a good day because there's not one to be found.
Yeah, it's in the forecast. It doesn't look any better.
No,
I mean,
it's just going to come down to going when you can go.
Yeah, I mean, we've got till January 21st or something like that in Kentucky.
There
so
has to be a cold snap between now and then.
Gosh, I don't know. You look at the extended forecast, and it's up in the 50s a lot of times. So,
but I'll tell you the way I've been thinking. I've laid really low the last 2 weeks. I'm not going to put any additional pressure on until I think.
I haven't been.
And think until the conditions are right, and knowing that. Like normally, it's January 1st is your cutoff. This year being the 21st, we've got a little bit of a buffer, and I guess I'm just relying on Mother Nature to give me 2 or 3 days between now and the 21st of January to tell me and scream on a calendar, this is when you go.
Here's the thing though. What happens if because we've got some commitments coming up.
We do. ATA show is still going to be during deer season, which blows my mind.
Yeah, we've got the ATA show to go to. The Louisville show. We're supposed to go work that.
I've got another job on the radio. I've got a day job.
It's going to be tough. I mean, hopefully those things don't get in the way. Then we might have to can't make the show.
I came down with a case of buck fever. It's raging. The only cure is more cowbell. What can I say? So it is. It's go time, and there's a lot of folks that dedicate their seasons, especially nowadays, hunting just one specific buck. And a fellow that has done that to some success and some struggle on one of the better produced shows out there in Chasing November, Mr. Jared Mills. He's going to come on and join us, and looking forward to talking to him. He's he's not the poster child of the show, but he's on there a lot. He has a lot of great content, and I love the way he tells his story. Typically just chasing after one buck. And I remember one a few years ago called George Brett. And being a big baseball fan, I thought that was pretty cool. But he ended up not tagging George Brett. So we're going to talk to Jared a little bit about his method and how he tells the story on Chasing November. So it'll be good to catch up with him. And, hey, hang around. We'll have him next. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Pro Talk Outdoors. And as we teased a little bit just a moment ago, we're here with Jared Mills of Midwest Whitetail and Chasing November. And Jared, number one, thank you for coming on. I know you've got a new baby at home, so you got a lot of commitments right now.
That's right. It's a busy time in our lives, but it couldn't be better. I appreciate you guys having me.
No problem, buddy. I guess we'll start out and get a little bit of a history to get folks acquainted if they're not familiar with you from Chasing November. How did you get linked in with the Midwest Whitetail guys?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to when I was in college. It was actually in 2010. I was getting ready to graduate, and I had, like a lot of people, had watched Midwest Whitetail quite frequently, and I had reached out to Bill via email just to see if he had any internship opportunities or anything like that. And just to keep it short, he said he didn't, but he would be willing to create something. I came up and did an interview with Bill. And it kind of all went from there. So I started an internship for a few months, and then he hired me full-time, and I worked full-time for Bill for about a year and a half, and then I took a full-time job in marketing and operations for Muddy Outdoors, and that was in 2012. And I stayed as an independent contractor for Midwest Whitetail, so I've been producing shows ever since I graduated college in 2010, all the way up until now. I did a few other different careers in sales and some other business-to-business stuff, and finally kind of coming full circle, came back to Midwest Whitetail full-time a little over a year ago. So now full-time, I kind of manage all the production, oversee all the production, and that's my day-to-day job now, and it's awesome. Get to do what you love. It's hard to beat. I can honestly say I work way more hours doing this job than any other career I've done, but they're enjoyable hours. So that's kind of the short version of how it all started. But started as an intern back in 2010, and here I am today.
That's a testament to dedication and kind of seeing it through, and being a guy that has recently actually had a couple things fall around in terms of job offers. It becomes a little surreal when you turn something down that you feel like was a good opportunity but not a great opportunity, and then something else, another door opens up, and it all becomes clear. Oh, well, that's That's why I made that decision. So I'm glad to hear that's worked for you. And got to give you credit where credit's due, man. That is an incredibly well-produced show, and I think everybody that I know has seen at least a season or more of it just watching on YouTube or wherever they can find it. You guys are really accessible. But I do want to ask you, man, the main thing that drew me to reach out to you was the way that you specifically tell your story and kind of go about your season. I remember the chase for George Brett a few years ago. It's just interesting to me that you sometimes seem to dedicate your season to one buck, win, lose, or draw. And what inspired you to take that method?
I think it's just the challenge. I've always been kind of competitive throughout my life. I was an athlete in college, and just the drive and the challenge of choosing a specific deer, hunting a specific deer, and learning every possible thing you can about him, really just was the next step in bow hunting for me. Everyone kind of goes through different phases, I think, and you want to shoot your first deer, your first buck, your first mature deer, and that was just kind of the next natural step for me, was to hunt a specific deer, specifically one that I had target or history with. Target something like that, and it's amazing what you can learn about individual deer. That's probably been the most surprising thing to me once I made that change to hunt specific deer, is how different they are and how individual bucks are when it comes to their personalities. And learning just that facet has made me such a better bow hunter, just knowing that not all deer can behave the same, and you have to target each one and hunt them a little bit different. So I think that's where it all came about. It was just a natural evolution for me, and again, I've learned so much once I made that change, and had a blast doing it.
Let me ask you this question, Jared. So you talk about targeting a specific buck, and they are different. I mean, they've got their own personalities, just like people do. So how do you go about breaking down, is this a social buck? Is it a kind of a loner? Is it an aggressive? Is it a bully buck? I mean, what do you do? What steps do you look at to try to determine what type of personality that buck may have, and then how do you maybe come up with a game plan how you're going to hunt that deer?
I think the biggest pieces of the puzzle are brought on by obviously trail cameras and encounters, but specific things that I look for, and I'll even use that George Brett buck as an example. He was not a very aggressive deer. A lot of people have seen the video of the fight that I filmed of him in the creek, and automatically think, man, he's an aggressive buck. But that was the one time I saw that out of him. Every other time he was very kind of to himself and reclusive. And one thing that I pay attention to a lot is trail cams, and specifically trail cam videos. I think you can tell a lot by a lot about the personality of a buck just by almost how aggressively he comes to a scrape and how aggressively he works a scrape. George Brett was one of those deer that approached every single scrape with caution. He never aggressively worked it. You get some bucks come in there and just tear it up, rake that licking branch and rake the ground. And I've never once, I have literally thousands of trail cam videos of that deer, never once saw that aggressiveness out of him. So little stuff like that, putting trail cameras on video mode, I think you can learn a lot, and a lot more than just a single image. So I think that'd probably be the main thing. But then encounters, the more times you see him and just get to observe his natural movement, you just learn a lot about him, just the way he moves. And is he, a point A to point B type of deer, or is he, kind of curious and wander around a little more, go a little more slowly? Little stuff like that. I think you can learn a lot about a deer.
What about this time of year when you've gone on this mecca, this just huge surge and a just journey trying to get one buck, and then you come to late December and you're sitting on a tag, and either A, what's the scenario like if you know that your target deer has been harvested by another hunter, or B, what's that scenario like if you have no idea where he is when you're sitting this late in the season? What kind of thoughts are running through your head at that time?
Honestly, your second question is the harder one, not knowing. I mean, I would way rather know that deer, was killed by a neighbor or whatever the case may be, and I can move on and choose a different buck. Not knowing was the case with George Brett.
Right.
I kept hunting him, and I pretty much knew in the back of my mind that something happened to him. It was almost a hard stop of getting pictures of him and encounters with him. And I knew that just wasn't right, but I still had no evidence that someone else killed him or anything like that. So I didn't feel like I could pull off from hunting him. But I think in the back of my mind, I knew. And that's tough. I mean, it's tough when you base your whole season around a single deer. And I've made the mistake of doing it. And I don't want to call it a mistake, but it kind of is a mistake if you're not seeing him on trail camera or not getting counters to still keep going after him and basically not waste your whole season, but, pass any other deer, just the hopes that deer's going to show up. I did that with a deer back in, it was a giant deer back in 2011, I think it was. And all of my pictures were nighttime and they were very sporadic. And yet I still passed every other buck I saw because I wanted to target this deer. And there's a point I think that just doesn't make sense. If you aren't in the game, you're not getting daylight pictures of them, you're not getting regular pictures of them. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to base your whole season around chasing that deer. You got to be in the game at least. And I've made that mistake before, but it's hard to take yourself out of it too.
So what about just a regular situation for a guy that maybe has a target deer or two or maybe even three, but he's still sitting this time of the season with a tag in his pocket and he's feeling a little bit dire straits. So what kind of advice would you lend to that guy?
Keep going. Keep going. I experienced a little bit of that this year. Granted, I wasn't chasing a specific deer, but I just moved, 2 hours away. I lost access to all my hunting properties, so I was hunting new ground this year and was struggling to get on deer. And November 11th was the first shooter I saw, and I happened to get lucky and kill him. But it was a challenging season. As much as I hunt, as much time as I spend in the woods, to not even see a shooter until that time, it was tough. But that perseverance, keep going attitude is ultimately what paid off. Your hard work's gonna persevere. Just keep hunting smart and keep going. You can't kill one from inside. So. You just got to keep going.
Now, you mentioned that you didn't see a shooter until November 11th. We kind of had a lot of that same kind of stuff happening to us over here. It's been a very tough year for us. We're hunting in Indiana and Kentucky. Do you think it had anything to do with the mast crop in the woods? Was it the fact that we have acorns dropping everywhere here, so I think that a lot of our issues are attributed to that. What did you attribute your issues to?
I think that definitely did play a part because we had a really good acorn crop here this year too. But I also attribute it to the fact that I didn't know these properties, and the properties I did get permission on weren't anything special. They're big agricultural fields with a little bit of cover on them, not much. So I think there are obviously multiple factors, but I think I would attribute more of mine personally just to not understanding the deer movement and how to hunt these new properties and getting a late start. Some of them I didn't get permission on until mid-October. So then it was, put out cameras and where can I hang stands and stuff like that. So it was a late start to the game plus all new ground, which I love the challenge of hunting new ground, but I think that played a big part in some of the slow hunts early on.
A moment ago you had mentioned that you had just moved 2 hours away. Was that a move that was spurred on by the position with Midwest Whitetail, or was that, impromptu? What's behind that?
Yeah, it was. So Midwest Whitetail relocated to the Des Moines area here in Iowa, and basically me and the other employees had to move with the business just to be in a better location for some of the other core guys in proximity to the main production office and stuff like that. So it was Midwest Whitetail related move.
Gotcha. Now with that in mind and being just overseeing all of the production aspects, can you maybe tell us a little bit about what's around the corner and what's next for Midwest as well as Chasing November?
Yeah, so Chasing November, still proceeding like usual. Season 4 will be coming out this summer. We're starting the early stages of production on that right now. Obviously start just seeing what kind of storylines we have to produce. That's the nice thing about Chasing November's format compared to our regular Midwest Whitetail format. Midwest Whitetail, we're producing on the fly. You know, we're 1 or 2 days behind on these hunts, and they're producing a little bit more raw. And these stories, we don't know how they're going to end. So everything's just kind of real time. Whereas Chasing November, we know how all the stories ended. So we can kind of go back and connect the pieces and do a really good job of telling a quality story just because we know the ending of it. And we just have more time to make the production higher quality. So season 4 will be coming out just like normal. As far as what's around the corner, you know, we're always looking into new projects. Realtree's a big partner of ours, so we're looking at maybe some more custom production we can do for them, maybe a new series or 2 with them in partnership with them. Stuff that's all going to be hashed out in the next couple of weeks, an ATA show and stuff like that. But for sure we'll be producing some new things, and we're continuing to grow, and it's all good here.
Awesome. Well, man, what's the best place for folks to keep up with what you guys are into and follow you as well?
Well, we have the Midwest Whitetail website. We're actually getting ready to redesign that, so people can always follow us there. You know, YouTube seems to be the most popular place for people watching videos these days, so we have a few different channels there. The primary ones are just Midwest Whitetail on YouTube, and then Midwest Whitetail Daily on YouTube. For the guys that really like the real-time stories, the real-time hunts, I would suggest looking up Midwest Whitetail Daily on YouTube. You know, that's where we go out hunting, let's say an evening hunt, and the cameraman or the producer stays up till 11, 12, 1 in the morning to get that hunt posted on YouTube that night. So everything's very, very almost
real time
as you can get.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you know that's a really growing channel. People love seeing that. People love relating to what we're seeing compared to what they're seeing in their neck of the woods. So that's a good spot to follow us as well.
So how many teams do you have that are contributing right now to Midwest Whitetail?
So our Midwest Whitetail main show, we just have 5 or 6 core guys contributing to that, but we also have Midwest Whitetail Regional on YouTube, which is kind of our at-large pro staff across the country, and we have close to 150 guys that contribute to that. You know, some are a little more regular than others, but overall we have a pretty big pro staff that just they just love going out and filming hunts and sharing them with people. They may not be as high quality produced or anything like that, but they're very, very real and very, very relatable, and that's really what we try to be.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for jumping on with us. Hang with us through the break. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Welcome back to Pro Talk Outdoors. We're about to put the wraps on this episode. Big thanks to Jared Mills from Midwest Whitetail and Chasing November. And we touched on a little bit about his chase for George Brett and just any pursuit of one single deer. And one thing that really stood out to me that year that he was going after that deer is just at this time in the season right now, he was so worn out. You could see it in his eyes and his face, his body language. But he kept pushing through, and that's the resounding theme he mentioned when we asked him the question.
Persistence.
Just keep going.
And we talked a little bit in the opening about Wyatt and him being able to capitalize on a 5.5-year-old buck late in the season, and we still have tags left. In a sense, as a hunter, if you're dedicated and you're hunting hard the way that we have, you almost feel like those bucks do coming out of the rut. I mean, they're worn down. They are absolutely worn down, and they're exhausted. I know I am. I know you are. It takes a beating on you mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, everything you put into the season, and even the build up to the season, and then you're getting late like this, and it seems like it just almost seems impossible to be successful, but you gotta keep on plugging away.
When you spend more hours than ever, like we did this year, planning plots, more sweat, blood, and tears that go into different things, and then, you still face struggle. You think, gosh, you're going to reap what you sow. Well, there's so many more variables to it.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, and I faced a ton of them this year.
Yeah, and most of them are beyond your control.
Yep,
but,
no control.
And there's no better way to refresh the way you feel out there than to have one good encounter. It's crazy how you can spend an equal number of hours in a stand. One of them you don't see anything, and the other one you see one quality deer, And the way you feel getting down out of the stand in those 2 trips couldn't be more different.
I think at this point in the game, it becomes more mental than anything else. You have
100%.
to mentally stay focused and believe. You have to believe that there are still deer that you want to tag out there, and they are still living in those woods, and there is an opportunity there. You just got to be there at the right time. But sometimes, I ain't gonna lie, I'm sitting in that stand, and all I'm thinking about is sitting on a lake with a rod and reel in my hand, and I just can't wait. I'm wishing my season away, and I hate that, but man, it's tough. It's really tough.
It is, and we hope if you're listening to this that you've got a little bit more gas in the tank and can get out there and tag that deer if you haven't done so yet. And if you have, hey man, have a stick of jerky and click like on it for us.
And also go to Carbon TV. Our season 2's live and running on Carbon TV. They're in a rut. Check it out. I think Craig did some fantastic work there, and I don't know. I'm proud of it. So
100%. How could you not be?
Yeah, good stuff.
He puts a lot of hours into doing that sort of thing, and we're actually going to have a couple partner co-produced things coming out soon here with Real World Wildlife Products. So looking forward to blasting some of that stuff out there around New Year's-ish. So going to be pretty exciting, guys. Hope you like, listen, and keep following us. Until next time, hook 'em or hunt 'em. Pro Talk Outdoors.
Later, guys.